of the heavens, the kingdom of the heavens is now advancing. Invade my heart, invade this broken sound. The kingdom of the heavens is buried treasure. The kingdom of the heavens is buried treasure. Would you sell yourself to buy the one you found? It's two things that told me that you are strong and you love me. Yes, you love me. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Our God in heaven, hallowed be thy name, above all names. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us, weary sinners. Keep us far from our vices and deliver us from these prisons.
I don't know.
And I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender. Sing it again. I surrender. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. Oh, I surrender all. Oh, I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. Sing that one more time. Oh, I surrender all, and I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender. Lord, we come to you and we surrender all right now, God. In the wake of finals and tests and final projects, God, I pray that you bring us peace and comfort, God. That you would let us see that there is an end to this, God, and that this isn't everything, Lord. Please bring us peace and comfort, Lord. We love you so much. We praise your name.
Hey guys, welcome to Crew. We are a group of students who love people love Jesus and want everyone to get a chance to know him. We'd like to welcome you to Crew. A good way, if you're new here, a good way of getting in contact with one of us by filling out a contact card located under your butt or on the seat in front of you. That would be a great way to get connected to one of us.
Tonight is grounds. It is at 9 o'clock at PFC. It is Twin Night. So if you know anyone who dresses the same way as you or steals your outfit ideas or your really close friend, anyone, find them, become a twin, and go to grounds. If you don't have someone, you can be a triplet when you get there. It won't matter. If you guys have never been to grounds, just so you know, it's a really fun time. It's finals week. We're getting close. We're studying. You can just relax, spend a few hours, do a few fun activities, and just enjoy yourself tonight. So you should all come to grounds.
On a side note, we are still playing Frisbee tomorrow at 3, for finals week, good way to let out some stress. 3 o'clock at the field at Denny's, we play Frisbee every week. And coming up is spring break.
I'm excited.
I would like to share with you a story. This is a story about Jimmy. Jimmy is a student, just like you at Cal Poly Pomona. His hand is raised because he's very attentive in class. He asks questions and clarifies things with the teacher. This is Jimmy's homework. As you can see, Jimmy is drowning. This is Jimmy's professor. And this accurately depicts Jimmy's experience during finals week. This is not a story about Jimmy during finals week. This is a story about Jimmy after finals are over and what he decides to do with his spring break. Jimmy is very tired from finals, and he wants to, his ideal picture of a spring break is just relaxing at home with his cat. With his cat. With his cat. But as you know, cats can leave hairballs everywhere. And pretty soon, Jimmy's spring break will turn into something like this. So Jimmy did not want to stay home during spring break. He heard that Crew is going on a spring break trip to Arizona. And he always wanted to see the sunset in Arizona because he heard it was beautiful. The closest thing that he'll get to that at home is just watching his bald uncle hiding behind a table. So Jimmy asked his friend Alice, who went on spring break trip last year, hey, when are we going? And Alice said, hey, we're going March 21st, Friday of finals week. And where are we going? We're going to Arizona State University in Phoenix, Arizona. And more importantly, he asked, how was spring break trip last year? Alice said, oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was stupendous. It was incomparable. But Jimmy didn't take Alice's word for it. He also did his research and studied some statistics. Here is a pie chart that Jimmy studied. Here is another pie chart that Jimmy studied. This pie chart represents all the people that went on spring break trip last year. And the red area represents the people that did not have fun. So Jimmy decided to go on spring break trip and ended up like this. However, looking more closely, he has one arm around a friend that he met during spring break trip. And both of their arms are raised because they're praising God while they watch the sunset in Arizona. You guys should go to spring break trip if you want an experience like Jimmy. Now we have a video.
One of the things I always liked about spring break was that on top of all the evangelism opportunities you get, there was also a strong service component. And so we wouldn't just be going to some random college campus and talking to people, but we'd be going there, we'd be helping out a struggling crew movement, we would be doing landscaping and manual labor for organizations that help out abused women or are struggling church in the area. And that always felt really good because I don't have any people skills, and I love being able to help people in any way I can, especially when they desperately need it. Spring break is where your acquaintances become your friends, where your friends become your best friends, and where your faith is set on fire. The fellowship, and everything crew stands for are condensed into 5 incredible days.
Spring break trip for me was super encouraging because it was my first trip out of everything the whole year, and I got to grow really close with a lot of girls in my Bible study that I didn't really know before. And I just had a blast getting to know more people in crew that I had never met before.
Another really cool thing about spring break is that every time I've gone on it, no matter how prepared I am for evangelism, I've always gotten into a really great conversation. And part of this just has to do with the fact that you don't have to be scared about running into this person on campus again. You just find someone, you strike up a conversation, find out who they are, where they're at, and you can get really deep really fast because suddenly you have nothing to break. There was a night last year that we washed each other's feet. That night changed my life. I've always known that God forgives us for all we do, but it wasn't until that moment that I could finally forgive myself. I felt what forgiveness truly feels like, and I haven't had the same since then.
You should totally go to spring break trip because it's an awesome chance to grow with God and grow with other people who love God. And just to grow in friendships and then take that back to Cal Poly and have those friendships.
So why should you go into the desert? Because it's a great opportunity to sharpen up on your evangelism. You get to help out a struggling crew chapter, you get a foothold on the campus, and you get to do some service at work and really help out an organization that needs as much help as they can.
Your acquaintances or the people that you meet during spring break trip and your friends become your best friends, and that definitely happened for me last year. Not only that, it's like a great opportunity just to partner with another sister movement of crew and bless them as we're being blessed by the church that we're staying at or by the crew movement itself in ASU. So I really encourage you guys to go to that.
For the money to register, you guys, we really need you to register, so don't forget. I mean, this is such an exciting opportunity, so I would register. We should all register. Also, the deadline for registering is Sunday night. Well, it's not the deadline, but it will increase $10. So Sunday by midnight, make sure. It only costs $85, but it'll increase to $95. So that's like 3 Starbucks drinks. Why would you want to know? You guys should all register as soon as possible. Now, our speaker, so if you would join me in welcoming up Matt Pfaff.
I can't.
Pfaff.
Without They can't make one without
Am I on? Yes, I am. Okay. Hi guys. We've been going through the series kind of talking about the kingdom, and we've kind of moved out of that and have been talking about more like practical, like how that applies to our lives. But before we ended, I kind of thought it would be fun to have a guest speaker today. And I thought, since we've been talking about the kingdom, why not have a person who has written so much about the kingdom? And you'll find that in the Bible, most of what's written about the kingdom is in the book of Matthew. And so I wanted to invite him up today. Matthew is a disciple of Jesus. And I just wanted you guys to know that what, like his words and kind of who brought him to life, I can't really take credit for, is kind of a guy named Gary Stanley, who was on staff with Korea ages ago. But just, yeah, if you'll indulge in a little suspension of disbelief, I want to bring up the disciple, Matthew. Hey, what's happening? Well, thanks for having me today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself.
Sounds like
I am what is known as a legitimate business person. My father, Alpheus, may he rest in peace, named me Levi. I never really liked the name Levi, so I prefer to go by Matt. Please, remember that. My father, Alpheus, also wanted me to go to a school and get a good education. He wanted me to go to the rabbinical school. I hated the rabbinical school. They had rules, you know what I mean? But my father, he was somewhat larger than I am, and had a way of impressing his opinion on certain parts of my anatomy, if you know what I mean. So for health reasons, I decided to go to the rabbinical school. I have to confess, I did pretty well at my lettering, and especially my numbers. Came in handy later on in life, as you see, where I come from, they had a sort of depressed economy, and there weren't a lot of job opportunities for people with my particular background. You know, I could have become a fisherman, except I hate the smell of fish. I could have become a carpenter, but I have this aversion to manual labor. And I decided at a young age that it was God's will for me to be one of the idle rich of this world. So I took the only employment opportunity available, a government job. I became a civil servant, a tax collector, as you will. And I must admit, I was pretty good at my chosen vocation. I got pretty rich, actually. Yeah, I think life would have gone pretty well in the opulent fashion that I was growing accustomed to, except that there was this one guy. This itinerant preacher set up shop in my hometown. And right away, he starts saying some things that aren't exactly conducive to my line of thinking. You know, I remember the first time I heard him, and he was up on this hill, and as a civil servant, I decided that it was my responsibility to go check this dude out. So I go up. I could tell he was a pretty popular type speaker into the rabbinical method of teaching. And I will never forget the first words that come out of his mouth. He sits down on this rock, and he opens his mouth and he said, "Blessed are the poor." I mean, you have to get this from my point of view, right? I've seen a lot of poverty hanging out around people, and they ain't none of them that I would consider blessed. And when he says this word blessed, he don't mean that sometime in the future somebody's going to come and tap him on the shoulder and say, "Oh, too bad, let me help you out." No, he means blessed. He means these people are going to have a certain contentment now, deep down inside. And it don't matter what their circumstances are. They're going to have a self-worth. This being blessed is a thing that it don't matter. It lasts forever. I start to feel kind of uncomfortable. Because you see, while I have many things in this world, being blessed ain't one of them. I kept listening, you know, and the next thing he says is theirs, the poor, is the kingdom of heaven. Now, I work for a rather large organization, but it ain't that large. And to think that the poor would have that over me, it started to bug me, this being blessed thing. So, anyways, he gets down to the bottom line at one point. I like the bottom line. And he says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And I thought to myself, man, that's a pretty novel idea, that the old pumper would be down on the corner. Never mind what corner it might be. Anyways, I go home, and I do some heavy thinking, you know. There was kind of a hole in my chest, and couldn't really get over this thought of being blessed. So, of course, I kept an ear out for what this guy had to say. One day, he wanders by my office. He not only wanders by, he wanders into my office. He says, "Yo, man." I'm like, "Hey, what's happening?" He says, "Yeah, I noticed you the other day on the hill when I was speaking. Sounded like you were listening." I said, "Well, you know, I'm used to the rabbinical method, and I was picking up some of what you had to say." He said, "Well, I was hoping that you might let me pick you up. I'm thinking of starting this group. Thought about calling them the Disciples." Pretty catchy, ain't it? And I thought to myself, man, this fellow has a great taste in human people, don't you think? So I said, "Sure," and all right, well, that's not exactly how it went. He walks into my office this day, and he looks at me, and it was like he could read my mind. I mean, ever since that day, it occurred to me that there was nothing in my life that was getting me any closer to this thing about being blessed. And I realized that it was probably going to be being around this guy, this Jesus, that is where that was going to happen. So when he walks into my store, my heart leaped up in my throat. I couldn't say a thing. And when he asked me, Maddie, to follow him, I was a giddy little schoolboy. Of course, not long after, I was in for a big letdown. We got together as first meeting of the disciples, and I saw what Jesus' taste in people really was. I mean, there were two brothers there, Pete and Andy, fishermen. Yeah. And of course, when you get together, as form a new group, you have to select the officers. And because of my background, I was interested in the highest position there. So after getting, some of the minor things sorted out, like president and vice president, I stood up and volunteered myself for treasurer of the group. Because if there's anything that I'm good at, it's money. Jesus, though, he just motions me down. He points to the guy in the back of the room, the older Judean in our company. And he says, no, I think we'll have Judas Iscariot be treasurer. I was humiliated. I mean, to think that he would choose that greasy little guy over me for the highest office there, I might have left that day. Except this thing about being blessed, it was really starting to dig deep in me. Anyways, after a while, we would travel about and start talking, and Jesus, he was really into this rabbinical method, and he used to tell these pithy little stories. They're called parabolas. And we was walking down one day, and he tells these things. They don't make no sense at all, but they seem so simple. And so we'd all sit back and go, oh yeah, I mean, of course, sure. Didn't that occur to everybody? All of us except Peter. Peter didn't think before he spoke. Jesus would hardly finish his sentence when Peter would be like, huh? I don't get it. What are you talking about? And we'd all go, Pete, you big dumb fisherman. And then we'd listen real close to see what Jesus was talking about. Well, anyways, we walking down this road, and Jesus starts one of these parabolas. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man discovered and hid, and out of joy over it, goes and sells all he has to buy this field. That may have gone by a little fast for some of you. So let me see if I can put it in more contemporary terms. There's this guy, he's kicking in the field, right? We don't know why he's there. It ain't got nothing to do with the story. But he's there, and he stumbles across this incredible treasure. And he does what any reasonable person would do. He covers it back up. He don't tell no one. He goes to the courthouse and finds out who owns this field, and goes to the owner of the field, hoping to give him an offer he hopes he will not refuse. So he walks up to the owner, and he says, hey, I was thinking of relocating, and I saw that you had a very nice piece of property, and I would like to buy that piece of property. And the owner says, oh, okay, well, what are you offering? And he says, I got $5,000 right here in cash to give you. And the owner says, oh, good, I'll take it. And he thinks to himself, we'll see who gets took. So he forks over the $5,000 and turns around and says, nice doing business with you. And the owner says, hold on, what else have you got? He says, what, like the $35 in my pocket? He's like, sure, that's the price of the field. He thinks to himself, that's really sticking it to you. It's like, But he thinks about this treasure. And as he thinks about it, it's like, what's $35? So he's like, oh, kind of like a closing cost, huh? Yeah, sure. So he hands over the $35, says, nice talking to you, turns around, and the owner says, I'd actually like to talk a little more. What else have you got? He's like, hey, that's it, I'm tapped out, you got all the money I got. Oh, that's okay. What else have you got? What, you mean like my possessions, like my iPod? It's like, yeah, that's the price of the field. It's like, you can't have my iPod. I had that for a couple of years. I relaxed to that all the time. No way. Like, that's the price of the field. This guy, he turns around, about to walk out the door, but then the image of that treasure pops in his mind. And it occurs to him that if that iPod is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, that iPod is going to sound flat and scratchy from then on. So he turns around and he says, All right, I'm willing to sweeten the deal for you. I'll give you my iPod. The owner says, good. What else have you got? Are we related? I mean, you're a shrewd businessman. Maybe I showed too much interest here in the beginning. I'm really not that interested. The owner just said, what else have you got? I said, what? Like my TV? Yeah, that's the price of the field. Sure, that is a 60-inch LED smart TV. How am I supposed to, unwind in the evenings and play my games if I don't got that TV? That's the price of the field. Yeah, he's had enough. He goes to walk out the door, but he stops. Because in his mind, again, he sees that treasure. And it occurs to him that if that TV is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, that TV is going to be the most boring piece of mechanics and electrical wiring that ever existed. So he turns back around and says, I really do like that piece of property. All right, you can have my TV too. The guy says, good. What else have you got? Says, hey, I'm tapped out. You got my money, you got my possessions, you're going to have to settle for that. Well, where do you live? Huh, you're kidding. You ain't going to see no birds nesting on this head. You ain't going to see flies buzzing about. I'm not going to give you a house for an open field. You're out of your mind. What do you think I'm going to do, live in a tent? The owner says, that's the price of the field. This guy, he storms out. He goes down to the corner. He gets about a block and a half, and he just stops mid-track because he can't get this treasure out of his mind. And it occurs to him that if that house is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, that house is going to be the most desolate place on earth. And who wouldn't want to unload the most desolate place on earth? So he goes back, kind of slinks back, and goes to the owner and says, hey, remember me? I was thinking of relocating, and all right, you can have my house too. And the owner of the field says, good. What else you got? Says, hey, outside of a little vacation time, you got some vacation time. How am I supposed to give you that? I worked long and hard all year for this. I got 2 weeks, that's it, and I'm planning on relaxing with that. Says, well, that's the price of the field. By this time, this guy, he's starting to get dizzy, thinking, what have I gotten myself into? And he goes and he just starts to think, and through that haze shines a bright light, and it's that treasure in the field. And it occurs to him that if that 2 weeks vacation is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, those 2 weeks are going to be the most empty weeks of his life. So he says, well, I don't know exactly how we're going to work this out, but okay, you can have my 2 weeks vacation too. The owner of the field says, good. What else have you got? You tell me. Well, how'd you get here? Are you serious? You want my car too? How am I supposed to get to work? You expect me to walk to this field too? No way, you can't have my car. That's the price of the field. He goes out, he's backing up, and he's backing up pretty slow, And it's like he looks in the rearview mirror and he just sees the image of that treasure. He just can't shake it. The incredible value. And it occurs to him that if that car is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, well, he don't got nowhere to go anymore. So he goes back and hands the keys over to the owner and says, all right, well, you can have my car. It's the convertible out front. Man, I don't know what I'm going to tell my girl. Oh, you got a girl. Not today. No way. Not next month. That is a very special lady in my life. Back when I had $5,035 and 2 weeks vacation, I was thinking of doing something nice, going to the Bahamas with that girl. There ain't no way you're getting her. And he storms out, and he walks around. And he walks around a long time. Finally, he sits down on a park bench. He's just thinking, he just can't get that treasure out of his mind. And ladies, I don't mean to insult you, but he comes to the conclusion that if that special woman is what comes between him and that treasure, the special relationship that they share, it don't got no chance of lasting anyways. It's gonna dry up and blow away. And they just gonna bring each other down for the rest of their lives. And so he goes back and he says, all right, you can have my girl too. Hey, listen, I'm a businessman. I know there's something else going on. What's the bottom line here? And the owner looks at him and says, well, how about you? And he just freezes. Thoughts of forced labor go through his head. And he thinks for a second. But at this point, the treasure is shining so brightly in his head that it occurs to him, if being his own person is what comes between him and that treasure, well, he got nothing worth living for anyways. And so he says, all right, I don't know exactly how we're going to arrange this, but you can have me too. And the owner of the field says, good. That field, it's yours. And the treasure that you don't think I know nothing about, that's yours too. Will be. This guy turns to walk away. He's dragging pretty low. This day had not gone exactly as he had hoped. And he puts his hand on the doorknob when the previous owner of the field clears his throat, and he just shakes. He says, one more thing. I thought there might be one more thing. He says, no. You know that $5,000 you gave me? He said, yeah, I have fond memories of that $5,000, $35. That's right. I own a cattle on 1,000 hills. Money's not really an issue for me. Oh, well, I'm very glad to hear that for you. I can see how that might be the case. Well, and you know that iPod? Well, I got this chorus, this choir. I can't imagine anybody turning that on. Well, that's nice to know. And that TV. I mean, honestly, I can't think of anywhere where we would plug that in. And your house, I mean, I'm sure it's a nice house. No offense, but your whole house would fit on the shelf in the closet of the servants' quarters in my neighborhood. And your 2 weeks vacation, you probably aren't going to understand this, but time, it really isn't an issue. And your car, I mean, I'm sure it's a very nice means of transportation, but we got other means of getting around. So go ahead, use all that stuff. But listen to me closely. If I decide that you should do something differently with that $5,035, I don't want you to get all tight-fisted, because you see, it ain't yours. If I decide that you should listen to something else on your iPod, or for heaven's sake, delete some of the garbage on it, that's going to be okay too, because you see, it ain't your iPod. If I decide that you should watch something differently on your TV, or maybe nothing at all, I don't want you to get all pouty, because you see, it's not yours. If I decide that somebody else should come and share your house, I don't want you complaining that they ain't your personal space, because you see, it ain't your space. If I decide that you should do something worthwhile with that 2 weeks vacation time, I'm going to need you to get with the program, because you see, it ain't your time. If I decide that a friend of yours should borrow your car, and while they're borrowing it, they happen to kiss a tree, I don't want you to entertain any thoughts about kissing them, because you see, it ain't your car. If I decide that that special lady is not the right one for you to spend the rest of your life with, you're going to have to let her go, because you see, she ain't yours. If I decide years from now that I want to take your wife and kids to be with me, you're going to have to accept that, because you see, they aren't yours either. And if years from now you get into an accident and break your neck and are paralyzed from the neck down for the last 25 years of your life, it's going to be okay, because you see, you're mine, and I'm going to take care of you. Do you guys see what's happened here? He finally got this guy to pry loose his hand from all the things that was holding him back. As long as he had his hand wrapped around all these things, he couldn't grasp the things of eternity, the things of so much greater value. For the first time in his life, he was free. He was poor in spirit, but he was free. He just had one place to go. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man discovered and hid, and from joy over it, went, sold all that he had, and bought the field. Those parables, they do things. Well, how this played out in my life, there was this day, we was kicking back. It was getting close to my favorite holiday, April 15th. Tax day, brings out the best in people. And this one day, he was all agitated. This was not new. And he goes up to Peter and he said, to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, I don't got no money to pay my taxes. And Jesus looks at him and says, hey, me too. This did not exactly calm Peter's agitated state. And being, a student of human nature, I was very interested in what would happen next. Well, Jesus, he just grabs Peter's shoulder and he says, hey, calm down. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go fishing. And I think to myself, man, that is really stupid. I mean, being a tax collector is a slimy enough business in and of itself without people trying to pay you off with those reptiles, you know what I mean? But, Peter goes down and he gets in the boat, he starts fishing, he catches a fish, and he's all excited, and he goes and he takes the hook out of this fish, and he sees in the mouth of this fish a gold coin, the exact amount of his and Jesus' tax. And I think to myself, man, could it be you've been in the wrong business this whole time? No sooner had I thought that, though, that I looked over, and there's Jesus, and he's looking at me. I mean, he's looking at me. And it occurred to me that this had all happened for my benefit. You see, maybe you guys hadn't noticed, but there are a couple of things in my life that have preoccupied my thoughts and my dreams. Jesus put it this way. He said, you can't serve both God and money. You're going to love the one and hate the other. It was about 3 years after Jesus hurt me down deep by embarrassing me and not letting me be the treasurer that I finally understood the depths of his love for me. Because, you see, he knew that I had no business being the treasurer. Money and possessions, they're a millstone around my neck. And he knew that those things would have destroyed me if I didn't let go. But I couldn't let go on my own. Because you see, the treasurer of our group, he bought a field too. Only cost him 30 silver coins. But that was a lot more than he could afford. There was something that would be buried in that field too. His own dead bones. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess what I'm trying to say is this guy who wanted to buy this field, I sort of have a strong identification with him. And being a businessman, I want you to know that that's the sweetest deal around. Because you see that treasure in the field, it's available to you. And the asking price is just right. Whatever you may be holding on to, that treasure is Jesus. The asking price is just right. Because that's the only way you're going to find out about this thing of being blessed. And that's the only thing that matters. One more thing. There's a lot of confusion about what it means, this kingdom of God thing. It's really pretty simple. The kingdom of God is wherever God is king. Thank you very much for your time.
Just to remember, there are flyers for spring break on your chairs. So take those home with you or wherever you're going in the class to remind you to register. Remember the deadline for spring break trip is Sunday.